Coming live from Stuttgart, Germany is our guest tonight. Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Kai Markus Müller, straightway from Stuttgart, Germany. He's a professor of consumer behavior, entrepreneur, neuroscientist, and author of The Invisible Game, The Secrets and Science of Winning Minds and Winning Deals. Welcome to the show, Kai.
Hello, AJ. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from this discussion, from your insights. And we'll be talking about the role of neuroscience in business. So, Kai, my first question is that how does neuroscience and business connect? You know about these things. You have been a founder. You are an entrepreneur. You teach consumer behavior, and you have also written a book, The Invisible Game, The Secrets and Science of Winning Minds and Winning Deals. So help us understand how neuroscience is connected with business. I thought it was more about just numbers and data and nothing else.
Sure. Well, business is run by human beings. So any purchasing decision, any hiring decision, any buying decision, any strategic decision is in the end done by a human brain, right? By some manager or by a consumer in the end. So what we see is that everything is about psychology. However, in psychology, everything is about neuroscience. That means our thoughts and our actions and our desires and our attachment to brands, for example, they're all residing in the brain. And that is where neuroscience comes into play when we talk about business.
Okay. So everything is in the mind. So how does it work? When a business plans about a product or a service, then they plan about the value that the product or service brings? Or is it about understanding more about the mind of the customer? And similarly, at the same time, the customer is also thinking. He or she wants to understand the mind of the seller so that he or she gets the best value out of a deal, business deal, any product deal, or even a service that he or she is taking from a seller. How does it work? How do the two meet together at the same time in such a manner that there is delight on both sides? How does it work?
This is a tricky question. I think I will give you an example here from a scientific study that is very impressive. So when, as you just mentioned, when a company designs a new product or launches a new version of an existing product, they need to decide on a price. And when they want to figure out what the value is, one tricky thing about the brain is that the value is not independent from the price. That means, while we all believe the value determines the price, well, it is also that the price determines the value, which is something that we know from neuroscience. There is a famous example of a famous study run by Hilke Plassmann at Caltech. And what they did was they gave wine experts wine to drink in the MRI machine, where you can actually image people's brains and people's brain activities. And what they found out when they claim that it is an expensive wine, there are brain areas active that are in other cases usually active when something tastes better. So that means the the price influences the perception of the wine, and it makes the wine taste better. So that means, how can we figure out the value of something to determine the price if the price at the same time influences the value, right? So if a more expensive product makes it work better. This has also, by the way, been shown with painkillers. Expensive painkillers are more effective than inexpensive painkillers. Um, and with hot chocolates that taste better when when they're more expensive. And so there's a great interplay that where you also actually see that if you want to enjoy something or want something to work like a painkiller, um, it can be good if that is an expensive product or if it's a reasonably priced product that also makes the manufacturer or the brand happy.
Right, right, Kai. Well put. I do understand. Even I sometimes do experience the same thing, that if you buy something you which is a bit on the higher side, the cost, you
Yeah.
assume that it is a better product. You start experiencing the same thing, and you just don't know how to. So all you perhaps think is that, okay, since it's a better cost, higher cost, it must be a better product. Now let's look at from a business point of view, Kai. You know about consumer behavior. You are an entrepreneur yourself. You have founded company before.
Mhm.
If I or anybody else as a business go for the pricing,
Mhm.
and I go as per the uh, you can say aspirational value of the product or service, and the
Yes.
customer might feel good about it. But in today's time, there is also the competition. And a lot of this competition will talk about the same quality, the same value, and as well as they are going for a bigger market. And there are many companies which are like, there is a McDonald's on one side and there is Apple on another side. So you see, Apple caters to a very specific customer. McDonald's cater to the vast market, and their people are price sensitive. They look at the value there. Now, how do a business whose product is also good, but they want to achieve a better pricing? And in today's time, there is this word is coming up. Is called premiumization of their products. That they want to sell less, but they want to sell it to customers at a higher price, or premium customer at the same. So, how does a business go for the best pricing as well as want to market it to a larger size audience? How is this possible, looking at from a competition point of view, because it's a tough market at the moment?
So it is a typical psychological phenomenon that salespeople who work in an industry know that industry in and out. And sometimes knowing too much is not optimal. You know, I like to say you yourself are your worst competitor because you keep looking at the competition and you know everything about this market. I did um, I did a study that I think explains this maybe to some degree. So it's the following: um, I have developed a tool to measure willingness to pay, perceived value of a product directly from brainwaves. Okay. Um, yeah. So basically, the EEG head cap that you may know of have seen, which has these wires sticking out and measures these brain waves, is very good at telling whether something in the brain matches or doesn't match. Like I say, Delhi and India matches, but Stuttgart and India doesn't match, right? For example. So, and so I have been measuring such signals with prices. And I was running a study with an insurance company. And that insurance sold their products and services through traditional brokers. So you go to an office downtown to the insurance broker and say, I need an fire insurance, theft insurance, car insurance, whatever. And they had a specific insurance that they wanted us to figure out the optimal price. So we looked at the brain of 40 consumers, tested them a lot, quite in depth. Many of the price points are then repeatedly tested, so we have lots of data, and we measured the optimal price, and we measured the perceived value, which is of course a little bit of a distribution over different people, because we don't just measure one person, but we measure many people. So, and the insurance had a very specific question. They were asking, is there a price threshold? Say, will people stop buying when we sell this for 100 euros per year instead of 99 euros per year? So we tested this, and it turns out there was no price threshold. We then showed this result to the insurance, and the insurance ran some field tests, and they found out that indeed there was a threshold. And people didn't buy any more 100 euros, which is not so good, because I said something else. Now I had a chance to run a second study with that insurance. And in that case, we tested the brains of the brokers that sell these insurances. And you know what? The price threshold of the 100 euros was in the brain of the salespeople, of the sellers. So that means they could not sell because maybe they knew the market too well. They were afraid. They were afraid of the number 100 instead of 99. And they believed in its threshold more than the consumers out there, who were trusting and trustworthy and said, this is a good insurance. This is a trust. I trust this broker. I trust this big brand. I know I get my money back if something happens. This is worth it, right? So this is crazy. Why did the insurers not sell their insurances over 100 euros? Because indeed, in the end, the brokers did not believe in the price, and salespeople did not believe in the price. And here's what I think is a very cool example of where I say you are your worst you are your worst competitor yourself, yeah, and you should watch out with believing in yourself. And yes, there is always a competition, right? And you mentioned big names like McDonald's. If you run a restaurant, yes, you cannot compete with McDonald's. But that is not new, right? You should look at your own strengths. You should look at where can you differentiate, and how can you establish value that is new, and value that is not just a simple Me Too product of a McDonald's, right? That will be hard, right? Because then you're up against someone. But if you find your niche, in niches there are riches.
Right, right, Kai. So how does a business actually find the optimum price? Do they, is there a method to it? And what about ethical pricing? Is it right to just because we perceive that a painkiller will be much more, beneficial, or say good for the customer because they perceive it to be much more effective, then we should just raise the price? How does a business uh, balance that? Obviously, businesses want to earn profit, but there are many good businesses also who want to get the right price, ethical pricing, and not to misuse. But they also want to have the customer satisfaction, that they should have a good customer satisfaction. And the world is moving more towards like that, guys. So in the sense, how does it work best for everybody? In terms of a business is also happy, in terms of a customer is also happy, that if it's something that they bought, then later on, they don't find out that somebody else is selling it at a much more competitive price, and they have lost out of that. Then the customer guilt will come in, will set in. How does it work? What is the best strategy for businesses, especially small businesses? They have a good idea, they are competing with the bigger market. What should they do? Do they go for optimal pricing? Do they go for the mass market? How will they work?
Mhm. So there were two questions. One, how do we find the optimal price? And the other
Right.
one, what is the optimal and ethical price? Um, let's maybe start with the second one, because I think that needs to be sorted out first. How do we find the optimal price? I think your question is a result of an underlying cost plus thinking. You
Right.
think somewhat that there are costs and these costs need to be reflected. And yes, there can be a 15 or 20% profit margin, and then we're fine. That may be okay when you are talking about a retailer, right? Right. I mean, if you figure out that somebody imported something and then added a 1,000% surcharge on it to resell it, then that may be indeed potentially unfair. But usually for the brands, it is very hard to really pinpoint the cost. A good example is anything that has to do with R&D. Um, why is an why does an iPhone cost more than $1,000 when it's actually €6 in production, right? It is because there has been a lot of R&D going on, right? They had to program stuff, they had to run usability tests, they had to market the product, and many of these costs are one-time cost, right? The sunk cost, the one-time cost, the sunk cost. So how do you know what is the right price? Even worse. So imagine a pharmaceutical. 1 in 10,000 pharmaceutical molecules in research make it to a patented product, and some of them fail on the last stage. Then it's another 10,000 you have to wait for. That will which will they have to be priced at a price that covers all the other 10 or 20,000 molecules that failed and all this R&D that failed. So it's you can't grasp it. It's I do not see that that you can actually go along with this cost based approach and cost based idea at all, because what is cost? What is cost? I don't know, right? It's pretty crazy. And then the other thing is, you really want your headache pill to work, and you cannot suppress your psychology that you believe in expensive products. So again, this is a question like, am I doing someone a favor by underpricing the product? If it works less or if it tastes worse, that's a matter really an ethical question, less a scientific question. Well, then the question was like, how do we find the optimal price? So I just told you that I have developed this tool with the brain scans, so the EEG brain scans that tell you the perceived value, and that's a very cool tool. Um, it's a little bit the Ferrari of all methods, right? So it's really good and it's really cool, but it does have it's also quite an effort to run such a study. Um, so we have derived another tool from that, which is based on reaction times. So um, let's take a dollar value maybe, because I'm not exactly sure I get the Indian prices right. But let's say I'm showing you a small cup of coffee, um, and ask you and say 20 cent, and ask you, is it cheap or is it expensive? And then you have to press buttons, say cheap or expensive. you'll quickly say that's cheap. Now, with say €8, you'll say, oh, that's expensive. But if I hit the right price, say maybe 320 or 280 or something like that, you'll think, is this cheap? Is this expensive? I don't know. Maybe I'll say expensive, right? But you have revealed your true value perception by taking a split second longer.
Oh,
And that is something we have observed in the EEG brain scan, because we do the same thing in the brain scan, but we also observe this in the pure reaction times. And we have developed a tool, an online tool, where we can actually measure perceived willingness to pay at scalable cost, relatively cool, and relatively straightforward. And it is implicit, is subconscious, and it may be the most fair thing, right? Because it does hit the true willingness to pay of the consumer, and at the same time, it does give the brand or the retailer the information on the perceived value, and then they can still decide we price higher or lower. A research tool will never give you a strategic advice, obviously.
right, right. But what about your tool? How do people get their hands on this tool that you have developed for this specific purpose? And secondly, you have also written a book, The Invisible Game: The Secrets and Science of Winning Minds and Winning Deals. So that will be quite helpful for the business. What exactly does this book entail, so that people
Okay.
know who this book is for?
Right. Again, two questions. First question is very straightforward. I sold my methodology to Neuroscience. It's a company in the Netherlands. We work worldwide, and I'm on board there. So you can either Google myself, Kai Markus Müller, just send me an email or link in with me, or you can Google neuroscience.com. You'll also end up working with me or with another interesting and great consultant. And we can offer that for any brand, business, retail, etc. So then there is this new cool thing coming up, which is the invisible game, the secrets and the science of winning minds and winning deals. By the way, today it was announced that this book has won the bronze medal in the category sales at the Axiom Business Book Awards in the United States. It's also a finalist in the London Business Book Awards. So this book is written for anyone who sells to businesses, right? And now it may sound strange because I'm a consumer psychologist. But the funny thing is, in consumer psychology, you have oftentimes high volumes and high turnovers. So all things you may want to know about your consumer, you can also test. Whereas if you run a few deals, say, for example, if you're a lawyer and you want to sell a contract to a company, or you are an advertising agent and want to get next year's advertising budget from some small and mid-sized enterprise, or you are maybe a big chemical key accounting manager who sells chemical projects to consumer goods company, you don't have a lot of deals. You make good money, but you don't have a lot of deals. Now, that means you have to know the theory of consumer psychology, because your deals should work. You should not be in a position where you mess up a deal because you didn't know consumer psychology and you didn't know decision science and behavioral economics. And so I teamed up with a sales professional called Gabrielle Reebok. She has more than 30 years of experience in professional sales. She sold big chemical projects, and she was very, very successful. And so we are a team of a practitioner and a scientist, although she also knows a lot of theory, and I have also run my business myself. So we both know our tricks of the trade, and we combined our knowledge and wrote The Invisible Game. Why is it the invisible game? Because a lot of things in the professional sale happen on a non-conscious level. And where the two minds, the two non-conscious minds meet, that is where you win or lose a deal, right? If I want to sell you something and I manage to convince you on a non-conscious level, maybe I use conscious tools. I consciously use tools to convince you non-consciously to work with me and to hook you on my product or on my company, on my services, then I have great chances of becoming a successful businessman and running a successful business. And we distinguish the invisible game into three different pieces. The first one being situational awareness. Train your non-conscious reactions to be conscious. Become aware when maybe someone wants to play a trick on you, someone wants to put pressure on you, and you, for example, should say, "Stop. I'm running to the bathroom to calm down and think about this 5 minutes and come back to the room and then make a new decision, or not make a mistake in the heat of the moment." These kinds of things are situational awareness. The second part is defense. How do I, for example, defend my prices, which is a much more typical B2B topic for someone who sells in B2B. They need to give discounts, and how do I give the lowest discount? And I've had a lot of experience with people asking me for discounts at the strangest moment, like the last minute or so, and it's really frustrating because you feel like the project's running already, and now I should give a discount or stuff like that. That can become very, very tricky. How do I defend? And the third part is offense. How do I structure my deals so that they please the other side? Right. And that is I'll give you an example of that. In Europe, there are a few countries where there are between 95 and 100% organ donors. That means if they have road accident and they're brain dead, the doctor can say, "I take this liver or these kidneys and give them to someone who really needs them." There is also a group of countries that has around, it's usually less than 20% organ donors. And why? And why is that? Do you know why it is? It is because you are either a priori an organ donor and have to opt out, or you are a priori an organ donor and have to opt in. You are a priori no organ donor and have to opt into the organ donation program. And that is a great example. As you see, it's either less than 20% or more than 95%. It's a great example of the fact that people make decisions and they believe that it's their own free decision, but it is not. It is the decision that was made by someone who decided whether they are a priori an organ donor or no organ donor. And it seems like everybody has made that decision and is somewhat happy with that decision. So the question is, when you buy something and you feel convinced and it's good for you and you feel like you've made the right decision, then everybody has won. And that is what the invisible game is about.
Right. Invisible game is all about. So, how do people get hold of this book? How do people connect with you so that they can get the best out of you, either as a student or as a business who would like to engage with you?
Sure. So again, you can find the invisible game, the secrets and the science of winning minds and winning deals, anywhere where you find international books. It was published with Wiley, an international publisher. You can find it basically all over the place. If you want to get in touch with me, again, my name is Kai Markus Müller. You find me on LinkedIn. I also have a website where you can book me for speaking engagements. But please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm regularly posting on cool topics like neuroscience and business, like behavioral economics. And in case you are a student and want to get some international experience, I work at HFU Business School in the famous Black Forest in Germany. And over there, we actually have a number of international programs for international students, both on the bachelor's level as well as on the master's level. Check it out. And who knows, maybe I'll see you in my class. And if not, just link in with me.
Wonderful, wonderful. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed, Kai, for joining us.
Thank you so much, AJ. It was really great to be on this show.